Hey film fans! Welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. The movie starts with a couple, April and Finn, are traveling to New York to visit the man's family, when during their flight they end up experiencing a severe storm. When looking outside, the husband sees a lightning bolt, which forms a shadow much like a shark in the clouds. Believing he's hallucinating, Finn decides to look again, and this time he sees the animal clearly. Knowing that if he told anyone he would be called crazy, the man decides to just ignore it and close the curtain. But shortly after, the plane goes through immense turbulence. And wanting to see what is happening outside, Finn opens the curtain and can clearly see a shark hitting the plane's wing. Worried, he tries to warn the other passengers, but as a flying shark is not a common thing and no one but him has seen it, the flight attendant and an FBI agent who were on board ask everyone to calm down, while telling the passengers that it's just turbulence. However, outside it is possible to see thousands of uncontrolled sharks flying through the air. When they are approaching the airport, one of the animals ends up hitting the aircraft's turbine, which starts to catch fire and lose altitude. Because of the damage, the engine comes loose and ends up colliding with the side of the plane, opening a hole through which people begin to be sucked in. Panic is rapidly spreading. The flight attendant asks the passengers to keep calm and stay in their seats until landing, but a shark flies towards her and devours the woman's head in a single bite. In the cabin, many predators collide with the windshield, until one of them manages to break the glass and grab the co-pilot by the head. Trying to help his colleague, the commander tries to pull her, but both are ejected out of the plane along with the animal. Seeing that the plane's cabin is empty and that everyone will die if no one does anything, Finn runs to try to make an emergency landing while April and the agent follow him. When she's almost reaching her husband, one of the exits of the plane opens, forcing the woman to hold on to something to avoid being ejected. The agent sees a shark flying towards April and throws his gun so she can defend herself. The woman even makes a few shots, but is unable to kill the animal and has her hand devoured along with the weapon. In the cabin, her husband activates the landing gear and with great difficulty manages to make the emergency landing. After all that chaos, Finn starts being interviewed and talks nationally about the shark storm, but people obviously make fun of the story. Once at the hospital, April goes to the operating room to treat her injuries while her husband waits outside. After the surgery is completed, the man goes to his wife to talk, but they are interrupted by the weather forecast, which warns of a huge storm approaching, bringing thousands of sharks. Watching the news, Finn tries to call his sister Ellen to warn them of the danger they are in. But as the woman is on a tour of the Statue of Liberty with her daughter, she left her cell phone on silent, and that's why she didn't see the calls. However, when the two are taking pictures, they meet some of Ellen's friends who tell her about the accident. Worried, the woman takes out her cell phone and calls her brother, who tells her to get away from the statue immediately and go to Manhattan as it would be safer there. Ellen then tells her that her husband Martin and youngest son Vaughn are watching a baseball game at a stadium near the river, which will soon be hit by the storm, and asks Finn to go there to help them. As soon as the call ends, the woman looks into the water and sees hundreds of sharks, something that is not common in that region. After a few minutes of waiting, the ferry arrives and the group is finally able to leave Liberty Island. In the middle of the crossing, some sharks start following the boat, and while the women look on, one of the animals jumps out of the water and hits the face of one of Ellen's friends, who, trying to save her, uses a stun gun to electrocute the animal. But unfortunately, it was too late. The woman's face was torn apart and she ends up dying along with the shark. On the other side of town, Finn takes a taxi to the stadium and halfway through tries to communicate with his brother-in-law, who has apparently turned off his phone. Upon arriving at the stadium, the man meets Sky, an old schoolmate who takes him to the rest of the group. Once he meets up with Martin, Finn tries to convince the group to get out of there before it's too late, but they refuse and decide to stay to watch the game, until a waterspout forms in the river next door, and when it touches the ground, it turns into a tornado, bringing with it thousands of sharks that are thrown into the crowd. At that moment, chaos takes over the place, with a crowd trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. Along the way, the group passes a sports stand and picks up some items to defend themselves. As they exit the stadium, the crowd rushes to the station and boards the train while hoping the subway tunnel isn't flooded. A few kilometers ago, the railway maintenance team confirmed that the underground passage was really submerged and decided to go to the valves to close them and prevent more water from getting in. As they are walking through the cave that gives access to the registry, a huge crocodile comes out of the water and devours the head of one of the workers. Seeing his friend being killed right in front of him, the other employee tries to run, but due to the pressure, the valve ends up bursting and a large amount of water begins to leak, releasing several sharks that devour the crocodile and the man together. On the railroad, the subway is hit, and when trying to see what hit the vehicle, Finn sees a lot of water carrying several sharks. At the next station, passengers have been waiting for several minutes to board, but when they think they will finally be able to get on, the train passes right by, and right behind it come the predators that invade the station and devour people. Knowing that the sharks could enter the train at any moment, Finn asks everyone to go to the front cars, and in the midst of that chaos, a policeman who is helping to lead people is caught by the leg. Determined to help him, one of Martin's friends hits the shark with his giant baseball bat, saving the police officer, but is soon caught and pulled into the water. While everyone is running away, Finn returns to try to save a woman who was caught, but to no avail. In addition to not being able to help her, the man is almost caught and has to use his bat to defend himself, but the shark destroys it with a simple bite. In order not to be eaten, Finn uses a piece of wood left over and sticks it in the animal's head, killing it instantly. Believing they'd better get off the train, Martin asks Vaughn to pull the emergency stop, and as soon as the train stops, everyone runs towards the surface. Once they hit the streets, the group gets into a taxi and starts planning what kind of weapons they can use against the flying shark. They decide to go to Times Square, where they split and start looking for materials that might be useful. Finn goes to a pizzeria and asks the owner for some propane gas so he can make some bombs. And meanwhile, Martin and Vaughn go to a market and buy some other materials to make the explosive, as well as a much more powerful toy gun. Finally, the group buys a beautiful sword and heads back to the taxi. After getting off the ferry, Ellen and her group run towards the buildings she scheduled to meet with her brother, and along the way, a man offers to help, saying that he could house them in his office, which is not far away. However, on the way, he drops his suitcase and decides to go back to get it. And that's when the hurricane passes by the Statue of Liberty, ripping off the huge concrete head that flies towards the man and crushes him completely. Further on, two city workers who are on the street see the women being chased and decide to help them. But when the driver is getting into the truck, a shark hits his head. Knowing that if she didn't take any action, they would be crushed by the statue, Ellen takes the wheel of the vehicle and starts a desperate escape. But as the truck was not so fast, in the middle of the way, the piece of concrete ends up getting too close, and the other employee who was in the back of the car is hit by a part of the crown and has his back ripped. Certainly, they would not be able to escape thanks to the low speed of the vehicle. So Ellen throws the car onto the sidewalk and ends up hitting a pole, but at least they manage to escape with their lives. After running for a few kilometers, the trio grab some bikes and start pedaling, trying to get to the building faster. At the hospital, the winds caused by the tornadoes begin to throw some objects against the windows, and worried that some glass will break and reach the patients, the staff begin to transfer them to the basement. April then takes advantage of this situation to escape and takes a fire truck that was parked at the hospital so she can go to her husband. Not far from there, the rivers around the city begin to overflow, bringing a large amount of water to the center. And as if the flooding wasn't enough, the flood is infested with sharks. The taxi where Finn's group is ends up being hit by water, and because of that, they are stranded in the vehicle, knowing that if they didn't get out of there, they would soon be submerged and become shark lunch. Finn asks the taxi driver for a piece of rope and throws it on the pole, forming a kind of swing that they use to cross to a higher part that wasn't flooded yet. But when the taxi driver tries to cross, he ends up leaving his leg vulnerable, which comes into contact with the water, allowing the sharks to eat him and take the rope with him. Being the last one left to cross and having no other options, Finn literally jumps over the sharks as if he was playing hopscotch. With everyone on the other side, the group runs to the building, but when they get there, they realize that Ellen still hasn't arrived, and so they decide to split up. Finn and Skye go to the top floor of the building to set the bombs, while Martin and Vaughn stay downstairs waiting for mother and daughter. Not far from there, the women are almost there, when thanks to one of the tornadoes that is close to the building, a huge whale shark falls on Ellen's friend, turning her body into mashed potatoes. As they're almost reaching their goal, even shocked, mother and daughter run inside the building where they finally find Martin and Vaughn. At the top of the building, Finn starts preparing bombs while Skye prepares a makeshift slingshot with a rubber band she bought in Times Square. With everything ready, they hurl the explosive at the tornadoes that are about to come together, but end up not doing much damage. When they start preparing more bombs, a real shark shower starts to happen, and to defend himself, Skye takes the sword and slices the giant fish like a sushi chef. During the storm, one of the sharks hits the roof of the building, opening a huge hole, in addition to knocking the water tank through the opening, which causes a great flood in the lower floors. As they are on the ground floor, Martin, Ellen, and their children are nearly hit by the water, but manage to run to the emergency stairs. Determined to dissipate the hurricane, the duo on the top floor assembles 2 bombs at once and launches them into the tornado, but again to no avail. As a last attempt, Sky and Finn make a big bomb and launch it into the hurricane, but the only thing they manage to do is kill some burnt sharks, causing the building to burn as well as a roasted shark rain. As they could end up being hit by the fire, the duo starts to go down, and in the middle of the stairs they find the rest of the group. Cornered by flames upstairs and sharks downstairs, they try to open the 4th floor door that leads to the fire exit, but it is locked. Martin tries to get the animal's attention while Finn grabs a fire axe. After picking up the tool, the shark jumps to try to catch the man, who hits the animal on the head with an axe. With little time left, Finn uses the axe to break down the door, and with the last obstacle out of the way, they head down the fire escape. As they exit the building, April arrives with the fire truck and takes them to the Empire State, where the 2 now merged tornadoes are headed. At this point in the weather forecast, meteorologists on TV announce a 3rd hurricane, which is also moving towards the building, and if they come together, it will be the biggest cyclone in the history of the planet. As soon as he arrives at the Empire State, Finn meets with the mayor and says that since the fire didn't work, he will now try to use the building's freon gas tanks, which is a fluid used to generate cold air in refrigerators and freezers. After saying goodbye to his family, the mayor hands a chainsaw to Finn, who, with everything ready, climbs into the fire truck and starts giving a speech, but is interrupted when a huge white shark falls out of the tornado and comes towards him. To defend himself, Finn starts the chainsaw and cuts the beast in half like a salmon. When he is about to go up, Sky joins him, and determined to save the city, they go to the top of the building. Once there, the woman climbs up to where the tanks are and starts connecting the cables. Downstairs, Finn is trying to connect the electrical wire and lightning rod to blow up the tank with the electrical discharge of lightning, but is interrupted when a huge shark starts coming towards him. The man tries to turn on the chainsaw to defend himself once more, but the tool doesn't work. Just when Finn thinks he's about to die, April shows up with a saw in place of her hand and rips open the beast's stomach, killing it in Captain Hook style. After everything is finally ready, Finn asks the woman to come down, but as he pulls the wire, the cables in the tank room come loose and the man calls Sky again for help. The woman then connects the cable and Finn uses the chainsaw as an extension cord to reach the lightning rod. After the electrical discharge, a real explosion of ice begins to happen that pushes them in the direction of the hurricane, which is frozen and disappears afterwards. In the fall, Sky ends up being devoured by the sharks that begin to fall. As it is plummeting, Finn manages to grab the chainsaw and start it, but ends up being swallowed and then saws the animal's body from the inside out. During the fall, the man finds a hook and uses it as a bridle to tame one of the sharks as if it were a mechanical bull. But after a few seconds of falling, the animal ends up impaled high on the Empire State, stopping the fall and allowing Finn to reach the terrace of the building unharmed, where he finds April. Some sharks that are still falling fly towards the couple, and without having a way to defend themselves, the man sticks his hand in the mouth of a shark that was dead next to them and ends up finding April's arm that was eaten on the plane along with the pistol of the policeman, which he uses to shoot the animals. After the last sharks have dropped, Finn takes the ring off her severed hand and kneels down, asking April to marry him once more. And so the movie ends. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps.